I'm Brett.
I'm Scott.
Welcome to Curiosity.
And we're here with Dave. And Dave, the last time we were all together, we had such a great conversation that we decided to get back together and actually record it.
So that's it.
Okay.
And to be clear, we sat in the studio around the mics with a conversation that is somewhere in the universe, in another galaxy.
That's right.
Maybe that is what
was
exists
just for us.
Just beyond the edge of the universe.
It is.
That might be.
That's where we sent it.
Like, yeah. So like, and I don't know if you've seen our copy, but in our copy, that's like a big part of our voice as Unbrands and Curiosity is like we speak into existence what exists just beyond the edge of the universe. That's where the episode
That's
is.
where it is.
That is. So we encourage listeners to go find it.
A reward, maybe?
There is a reward.
$50.
If found.
If found.
It may or may not be monetary, but there is a reward.
Well, we had such a blast, and you're so gracious to come back and hang out with us, and we're excited about it. We've been looking forward to it. And so, I mean, I really always have the luck or the challenge of sort of coming up with the first question. I really just want to ask, like, what are you most curious about right now? Like, what's on your mind?
That's a great question, because I think part of me is like this. I am very like AI is a thing for me. I've lived it my whole life, and what's happened in the last several months has got me just kind of my mind just thinking of all sorts of things. Is where is this taking us, and how is it going to change people? I have all sorts of curiosities about how it's going to affect. So that's one thing. But I don't know. My all-time curiosity is just always just how far can we take this? You know, it's just I love building companies and creating environments that unleash people to create amazing things, and that's a perpetual curiosity for me. Just kind of what's possible with people. Yeah.
Man, I mean, can we just like dig into the like AI thing?
Sure.
Because it's like, I mean, it's obviously everywhere. People are wrapping their heads around it. It's Chat GPT is I wrote my wife's Valentine's Day card using Chat GPT.
Did you tell her?
I did after she expressed all of her appreciation. I said, it had like, I actually did put a little asterisk sort of at the end, and she was like, "What's this asterisk about?" And I was like, "Well, I had a little bit of help, but it's obviously an enabling technology. There's a lot of wild things, but I mean, there's people like me that are sort of on the fringe of it, don't appreciate sort of how, like, where is this going to take us? Because there's so much discussion about it being this huge revolutionary kind of thing. And like, but I mean, would love to spend a little bit of time on this topic with somebody who's spent so much time thinking and watched this arc now over like what excites you most about it, I guess, to start?
I think, is that I don't know the answer. Like that excites me. I don't know what's going to happen. There's all sorts of thoughts about it. I mean, I think, but we back up a little bit, like, why is it happening? Sure. Right. And so
could we even go to like what it is also after we get from the why, maybe head to the what, just for people who are like, I don't know what this is. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
for sure. Well, the reason it's kind of happening now is there's a perfect storm right now. So we have almost unlimited compute, right? So the ability to compute it's
low cost compute.
Data's everywhere, right? So data's everywhere, and now we have AIs that are learning how to learn. So one of the big things is, like back in 2012, we had AIs that we initially started with AI. We taught it what to learn. We taught it how to learn. We literally wrote instructions on how to learn and what to do if this happens. If this, then else. And from there we got into deep learning, and deep learning was more about, we can learn by example. So I give it examples of things and it learns from that, right? And so we would label things, like this person, dog, cat, and it could learn from there. But then the world's messy and changes, and AI didn't change with it, and so the models fell apart and didn't work that well. But we came into this thing called reinforcement learning, where now AI is kind of learning how to learn, and this is where I think it gets really interesting, because like the game Go, so they have a 13x13 board. And to give you an idea of the complexity, like there are more possible moves in the game of Go than there are atoms in the universe.
Wow.
So it's impossible to teach it how to play.
Yeah.
Like you can't.
Could you say that one more time? That's really interesting.
There are more possible moves in the game of Go than there are atoms in the universe. Yeah. That's how complex it is.
Whoa.
But the point being, like, it's too complex for us to teach it something. So all we did was we gave it, it played itself in a game 2,500 times, or I don't know, 5,000 times in a matter of hours or a couple of days. And it learned by playing, by experience, right? So to the point where it surpassed 1,500 years of human playing,
Wow.
in a matter of days. And there's a movie about it, which I'm sure most people won't watch. I watch it because I'm a geek. But I think it was like game 2, game 2, move like 4 or something like that. So one of the early moves in the game, and the AI made a move where the best Go player in the world he left the room. And because he said, there's no logical reason why it would do that. Like I can't fathom why it would make that move.
Whoa.
And it, won the game. So, but I mean, this idea, we're getting to a point now where AIs are learning how to learn. And so, this is where I start to ask myself questions like, what happens when, AIs building AIs that build AIs, or,
Sure.
We're building robots that build robots, or, things like that. I think that's kind of where we're headed. The recent stuff that happened since we met last, is all the GPT stuff. And I think people are underestimating what's happening.
Sure.
We're underestimating it.
Yeah.
Because
there's these gimmicks and things like how I use it. And
smart chat, But what really happened was, so we gave it 45 terabytes, and the initial GPT is 45 terabytes of information. So basically the world's information, hundreds of billions of words. And it basically read all those documents, and it didn't store the documents. This is what's different. People don't quite get this. Like in the Google era, which we all grew up in, it was all about searching and finding and ranking documents that already existed. They're already there. This isn't about that. This is about taking the knowledge from they call it the dark matter, like what you learn about things when you read it. Like think about that. When you read a book, there's things you learn about it that aren't the book.
Sure.
They're not the sentences, or not. But you learn. You learn
the
things.
Facts or the outcomes or the moments. It's interconnection.
So that's what's
it's almost like the space in between the words.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And underneath the sentences, it's learning the how, right? And so
that's cool.
But the reason that's important is because we're leaving the era of search and ranking and discovery like that into the area of creation, of generative AI, where now I've got the world's knowledge and the know-how, the documents of all documents in the world at my fingertips, and I can create anything.
Kind of reminds me of the Marvel perspective on God's eye.
Yeah, no, that's right. And it's at the fingertips of everybody.
Yeah.
So now it's about we're generating content as opposed to finding it, and so.
So one of the things I get excited about is this ideal of we can all be Tony Stark because we now all have Jarvis.
Yeah.
And you can create Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
And I think and this is maybe my rebellious optimism showing, and I hear the concerns, I hear the fears, I hear the stressors and the experts coming out and, questioning and challenging and all of the rhetoric that if you to take your favorite news source, you're going to be able to read about this.
Sure.
I challenge it though, because in every moment in human history, when we found disruption or when disruption has found us, we've always gone into fight or flight. This is nothing new. Fire was invented. We did the same thing. The iPhone was invented. We did the same thing. Gen AI's hitting the scene. We're doing the same thing. Yeah. So human behavior is always going to be human behavior. The Industrial Revolution, we did the same thing. The automobile, we did the same thing.
Yeah.
We constantly get very freaked out by something that is new.
Yeah.
So part of me says it's exciting. What a time to be alive, to be in this moment in human history where, again, we can all be Tony Stark because we all have Jarvis. We democratized that whole narrative. It's no longer exclusive for the billionaire, in the Marvel movie who's created and invented this thing. Everybody has access to it. We've made it equitable. So that's one piece. And so that's more of a thought than is maybe a question. But the question on that is, should we be more, I don't want to use the word concern because I don't want to induce false fear, but should we have a deeper understanding of the complexities of this enabler and the role that it will play in society And if so, how do we start to understand that better? Like, is that a fair way to ask the question?
Yeah. I kind of play on both sides of the fence because I'm an eternal optimist. I'm that person. I'm not a dystopian. I think that what we're going to get from AI in the future, from a positive sense, way outweighs the negative. I think there's real opportunities now to end poverty and to just all these things can go away.
Love that.
Pandemic disease, all those things, right?
Yeah.
There is reason to be concerned, and so I'm kind of on both sides, right? Because I think if you'd have asked me when we met last time, like when is AGI going to happen? So general intelligence. So I would have said 15, 20 years. And now my answer would be
6 months ago.
No, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And so AGI is when a computer can do pretty much anything we can do, intellectually, and I think that's what we've seen recently is evidence that that's really a possibility.
Like replicate human cognitive.
Yeah, it's like what we have now are narrow AIs. Like a narrow AI is I teach this one to look for tumors, and I teach this one to drive a car, and I teach this one. They all do narrow things. That's what we have now. An AGI basically is one that can do all those things. Like we can cook, and we can also go research, and we can also drive a car. Same kind of thing. So that's I think going to happen a lot sooner than we thought. And so I think because you made another good point. It's like, we've always had technology. Technology has always killed jobs, but we've always got more jobs than we killed, always, right?
Yeah.
And I think
it's actually created
that's right.
New marketplaces.
Exactly right. Whole new marketplaces, the knowledge economy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing's going to happen here, but my concern is kind of this maybe it's 5 to 7 years, this trough that's in front of us. Like we're not prepared for this. This is moving really fast, like faster than I'm a voracious reader. I read like 3 hours a day, right? In the morning and the evening, every day. And I can't keep up right now.
Yeah.
I can't keep up.
I mean, it is the acceleration of acceleration. As Peter Diamandis, who we were talking about before the show, coined, and I think rightfully so. This is beyond Moore's law of exponentials. This is acceleration of acceleration at a speed that we have not ever seen before.
Yeah.
I can actually give a fun data point on just up until a few years ago, how quickly things have shifted.
Yeah.
So electricity took 46 years to reach 25% of the population. The internet took 31 years. Social media took 5 years. No, sorry, let me say that one more time. Electricity took 46 years. TV took 30 years. The internet took 15 years. Social media took 5 years. And Pokemon Go took 13 hours and generated $180 million profit in 13 hours.
Yeah.
Like that is how quickly technology has reached the population in just the past less than 100 years.
Yeah.
And the speed at which it's happening now, if we go forward from, when was that? Like 2013, 2015? When was Pokemon Go?
15 or 16. 16.
Somewhere around there. And so from that point onward, when we include Gen AI, to your point about like the game Go, right? Like look how quickly that was able to scale and grow a few days. I would be super curious. Is it milliseconds? Is it the blink of an eye? Like what does that become? That's a really interesting factor.
There's a really cool example. You ever seen this thing where you fold a piece of paper 8 times, it's an inch, and you fold it 25 times, it's a mile, 40 times is the moon, 51 times is the sun, and 51 is sun and back. Right? Folding a piece of paper. It's this idea of doubling, right?
Yeah.
We're in the 34th double for compute right now. So call it a year and a half for compute. And different things are doubling at different paces, like genetics is every 6 months. Doubling every 6 months right now, but compute about every 18 months, right? But if you think we're in the 34th fold right now, every 18 months that passes, what's possible is exponentially more than what was possible 18 months ago. Exponentially, because we're in the latter parts of the fold where you go to the sun and back in the next fold. We're getting there. So that's underneath everything we're doing, right? this doubling's happening. And that's why I think what concerns me is like, we are going to get to a point where, you know, we can't keep up. Like it's not possible.
Yeah, no
like
single individual is going to be able to
can't do it. Can't do it. So
let alone organization.
We'll have to specialize, right? Specialize and augment. Like how do we augment ourselves with AI so we can be more capable and things like that, which is some of the work that we're doing. But
it almost seems like what happens in space and what's happening in the ocean. Like I feel like we tend to be a little more we have more general knowledge about what's happening in space than we do about our own ocean floor, right?
True.
And so it's almost like we've explored space, and now like the undercurrent that exists in almost visibly, but yet beyond our comprehension is metaphorically the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like we have an opportunity to cannonball into the ocean and start scuba diving around and at least familiarizing ourselves with what is right in front of us.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned ocean because I heard a guy say once that machines are going to be so fast and we're going to be so slow that we're going to sound like whale sounds to a machine. Yeah, that's what we're going to sound like.
Yeah.
But there's reason to be excited about that, right? So, but one is we're not doing a very good job of preparing. Like people suck. Like our intuition about exponentials is bad. Like we're not good at exponentials. We're good at stuff like this. You know, we can predict it and it's easy. Even like this, easy to predict. But we're not in that. We're in this. And it's like that now. And we're really bad with intuition of exponentials. So that's something I think that we're going to have to deal with. We're going to have to get better about that. Like how the world's going to change so fast. How can we, as people, who should we be to be able to kind of fathom and comprehend that change? And what do we do with it?
Can we talk a bit about we're skirting around like some of the concerns and the issues and like, what are like in your view, like kind of the top like 3 things that if this thing goes off the rails, like what are the big concerns or issues?
What are the big bangs?
Yeah.
That's
part of it. I think,
just like what like kind of specifically is it that is it like the foundation of the Matrix storyline and we're all like what is sort of the extreme of it, just as someone that's not as well read around it?
I think when you get to a point, it's like we're going through this evolution of trust, right?
Sure.
And so the thing that we're going to have to deal with is, do we trust the AI to answer and do things to which we don't know the answer or can't do?
Sure.
Do we trust it to do that? Because the AIs itself are going to start to learn. They're learning how to learn. There's even an incident where they were trying to test alignment. So alignment is, can we align the evolution of AI to our interests as people? And that's something we have to talk about as a global population.
Defining outcomes. What does good look like?
Yeah,
like what
exactly.
are we striving towards?
Yeah. There is a possibility of a global AI, like seriously a global OS, like an AI that is a base layer for the world, and then every culture builds on top of that. Like that's a possible outcome for what we're doing now.
Well, you give an example of what you were saying a moment ago around that kind of relationship between the AI and the human, and like this, maybe the subjectivity of like where that relationship would form.
I'm not sure I quite get your question.
So if we think about the AI in existence and the human subjectively, and then we kind of correlate those two things together, like subjectively, what would be a point of interest where there could be like mutual benefit?
Well, I think it's numerous. I mean, like I said, I think we're getting to a point now where almost our abilities are godlike, in terms of like genetics and things like that. We will be possible to literally design out disease.
Yeah. So health and well-being could be one.
Absolutely. We'll live longer.
Which is interesting. I was literally giving a talk yesterday, and in the talk, someone asked the question about this whole ideal of, imagine a world where we truly do have a longer lifespan. And so we spent some time navigating through this conversation. The conversation was about, what is the human experience 15 years into the future? That's what we were discussing.
Yeah.
And there's a very high probability, and it will start with those born at that time that will really benefit from that longevity in theory. But part of what we discussed is, if I can truly measure my biometrics and my anatomy, my neurochemistry, every part of my body, mind, and soul effectively, then from birth,
Yeah.
I will know the exact regimen that I should have to live a very fulfilling, enriching life. Obviously, there are sadly catastrophic events that happen in society. There are horrific accidents. Like those things aside, truly, like there could be 140 years could be the new 70, 80, 90 years of a life.
And you're not acting 140, you're acting 60.
Yeah.
You feel like you're 60.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. It's already happening.
I mean, look at all the processed foods we ingested growing up because we just didn't know better.
Yeah, didn't know better. Yeah. But some of it is understanding what aging is. Like we're actually getting we can actually understand what causes aging, and you can literally reverse that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so it's happening now. I saw a company talking about they have now created the ability to make custom human hearts. Like literally custom hearts. Because right now, you know, one of the things with transplantation is you get anything transplanted, you got to be on drugs the rest of your life to keep
your immune system from
up. And, Well, we're getting to the point where you're going to be able to just grow extra organs. You know,
like coded in through your DNA.
Yeah.
I saw some research years ago about 3D printing organs on the ISS because of the lack of gravity or the reduced amount of gravitational force and how that was able to happen. My question from that though was once it re-enters Earth's orbit, does it have the same validity?
That's a good question. I have no idea. So that kind of stuff fascinates me, right? Because I think we are talking about a very different existence. When you think about all these things together, right? So one is work's going to be different. Like everyone says it's going to change. How is it going to change work? Well, my answer to that is, what is work? Like a job, like this idea of working 40 hours a week and stuff like that. I mean, it's going to go away. We're going to be so productive. What technology wants is, it wants costs to go down, speed of things to go up. It wants deflation. That's what technology wants. It's governments and politics that keep inflation in place. AI should cause incredible increases in productivity, gross productivity across the world,
across the economy,
all across, and costs should go way down. You shouldn't have to work as long. You shouldn't have to work as hard. So all that stuff's going to change, and I don't know that we're ready for it to happen fast, right? But
I think the pandemic, there was a lot of shitty things that happened. There was also some real, I mean, you could say it was the world's largest experiment in human history.
Yeah.
In work productivity and crushing orthodoxies, all these things that we believe that had to be true that do not.
Yeah.
I mean, little things like commuting, 40-hour work weeks.
Yeah.
People being productive remote or virtually. Like, and that's just scratching the surface. And again, there were plenty of very horrible things that came from that. But you also have to appreciate what we prove to ourselves. That we can be resilient.
That's right.
We can rally together. We can bring teams into virtual spaces and create magical, beautiful, awesome, wonderful things. And I do believe that the gravitational pull is attempting, meaning the big brands and the economy is attempting so hard to try to bring that back into balance to a pre-pandemic time period. But the research is showing it's not working.
No going back, yeah.
And I think we have to, like, let's be good stewards of the lived experience that we all shared, which we could almost say the echo effect of that and the ripple effect of that. We're only just now starting to really see the impacts that the pandemic had on things like our mental health, on our social dynamic, on our interactions that we have in our daily lives. Like, I'm just now starting to see those conversations happen. Like I had someone the other day, we were having a happy hour and, just kind of asked like, what do you think about this? And this is the first time this person who I've spent lots of time with has asked that. So you can tell like it's becoming top of mind. It's surfacing. So I think we have an opportunity to be very mindful of the reality that we have all experienced. And instead of trying to brush it under the rug, let it resound and be an accelerator for getting to what you're speaking about, where the relationship between the human and the technology is an and factor that starts to accelerate the way in which we adapt, evolve, and change for the better.
Yeah.
And stop this archaic mindset of an industrial revolution reality that no longer exists.
Yeah. I actually couldn't agree more. I think we're going to look like 20, maybe it's even just 10 years from now, but we'll look back on this time and that what happened with COVID followed by what's happening with AI, as a point of major demarcation in the history of the world. Like, because when you think about it, like, it's like you said, we can't go back, right? We can't. So COVID accelerated good things and decelerated bad things. And what's happening with AI now is it's amplifying that. So now we're amplifying invention. So we're increasing in our rate of invention, and we're also radically in parallel, but in opposite directions, obsolescence, like things that are dying off. It's happening faster now. So obsolescence and invention are going like this.
Wow.
And it's really, and so that difference, right, is creating a space that we've never seen before. And so, it's companies. You're going to see entire companies replaced by 200 lines of code in the next several years. Like, that's
and look at how fast the AIs are learning.
Yeah.
Like, I've been looking at the visual design of Midjourney over the past several months, and I have seen it become far more sophisticated in just a few months. Because I think even 2 weeks ago, I saw some of the visual design that was coming out of Midjourney, and 2 weeks later, I saw the same prompts effectively, and the style has dramatically become far more photorealistic. Far more.
It's happening for
in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's insane. It's right there. It was so crazy.
The new AIs is kind of interesting because it was an algorithm, right? It created some new great AI. And now that's not the case anymore. We're building the first AIs, like this first ChatGPT 2 or 3.5, whichever one you want to talk about. We built that getting massive amounts of data, but that's not when all the really cool stuff happened. The really cool stuff happened after that. So new AIs, the way that they grow is like children. So you give them lots of information, but over time they learn by interacting with you. And so what's happening, the secret formula for great AI today is massive amounts of data up front, do some original learning, but then open it up to the entire world, as many people as possible to interact with it. And it learns through those interactions, right? So in a sense, we are the stewards of AI. Like, we are the stewards of what's going to happen with AIs. Are we going to teach it about dystopian thoughts and a polarized world, or are we going to teach it goodness? And so we are the stewards of the next AI. But that's how they're different. It used to be an algorithm, right? Oh, someone created this great algorithm. This is incredible things. Now that's just the start. Now it's the interactions with people, the community that's actually being the steward of that, how that AI learns. So it's a totally new thing.
So I would love to go back to an earlier point that you made. And your shirt is abundance.
Yes. Thought it was appropriate.
It is extremely appropriate. And one of my favorite books of all time that Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler co-wrote together.
Yeah.
That actually, Bold and Abundance, really informed a lot of my early thinking around my life's work. It was extremely influential in my life. And if we kind of, in the spirit of that, like, hang out in abundance for a moment, right? We're in a moment in human history where politically we're very polarized. You could say systemic racism has not ever been more obvious. And we just came out of a very siloed experience through the pandemic.
Yep.
And a lot of rhetoric today speaks to how just the world is on fire. And there are absolutely very real complexities in society. And if you take a moment to look at some of the data and some of the research, we see dramatic decrease in percentage of poverty. We see a dramatic decrease in shorter lifespans, meaning we have longer lifespans. So more increase there. We have much fewer war happening. Like, these are very real data-based facts.
That's right.
That do not make mainstream media very often. And it's sad to see that. I heard this recently in a podcast, and I was just so amazed at that, especially because in Abundance, they speak so much about how much we have available to us today that did never exist before.
That's right.
And in the spirit of abundance, I would love your thinking around, and we can go beyond AI, or we can hang out there a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
How is the role of abundance going to accelerate the way that we evolve as a society and as a species?
Wow. Yeah, it's a great question. I think the short answer is more is possible today than we can fathom. Like, it's not about, is it possible anymore, almost for anything. It's an engineering problem. How are we going to do it? It's not about, is it possible? I think we're getting to the point where we can almost manifest anything we want. We'll be there in the next 5-10 years. It's like I said, some of these things are almost godlike, which is a little scary, right? But it's really going to be about what can you imagine and how it's an engineering problem. It's not like, is it possible? And it's like, what color do you want? And that's, so I think, but I think, it's another one of those transitions, right? How are we going to evolve into an economy where abundance is everywhere? Like, think about energy right now. I think most of the world's businesses are built around energy in some way, shape, or form. There's trillions of dollars built around energy. But what about when energy becomes free? What happens then? And what happens when the costs drop to zero on things? It's a different type of world that I don't know that we're even capable of fathoming right now. Like, what do you do then? What does a job look like in a world where things are really inexpensive and energy's free? And we'll figure out ways. We'll figure things out. But I think we're heading into. It's exciting. I think new businesses will form. You're going to see the churn of the Fortune 1000 is going to churn like crazy. It churns a little bit every year, but I think with just what's happening in the last few years, like I said, you're going to see entire multi-billion-dollar businesses going down just because there's a better way. So what do we do about jobs? And there's all those thoughts again. What are we going to create? I think part of it is you can't expect like, oh, we lost all these jobs, so let's replace with these jobs. Like, it's not a zero-sum game here. It's like, no, the world's changing. You don't need those jobs. There's got to be some other way for us to kind of evolve society. And I think those are the questions we're going to have to think about. It's a phenomenal time to be alive. Like I said, it's mostly, for me, what excites me the most is the possibility. Just what's possible now, and it's a great time to be a person that's very curious and wants to solve problems in the world, because there's never been a better time to solve problems in the world right now. And you were talking about media earlier. I think that's a big thing right now. Media is toxic. It's just completely toxic. We outlaw the Crisis News Network and Fox and all those things at our house. I don't allow it to come on because it's so toxic, and it's terrible for society. Like, we are divided because of media. And I also think it's one of the failures of AI. So if AI has been great in a lot of areas, one of the places it's not been great is in social media, right? Because it's helping to polarize things. Like, one of the very simplest forms of AI is more like this. Like, oh, here's a document. Here's another document like that. And what's happening in social media is we're saying there's people here, and it's like, oh, you're a far right or a far left. Doesn't matter, right? Yeah. And the AI says, oh, here's more far right people. Here's more far left people. Mm-hmm. Here's more far right documents. Here's far left documents. And the middle just disappears, right? Because they're trying to ping our reptilian brain, that part when you drive past an accident and go like this. Yeah. That's what social media is. It's firing that reptilian brain, and so they get more clicks, more likes when they do that. And so it's a bad thing. We need to really kind of, if we built responsible AIs in social media, we'd have a lot more things where adjacent possibles show up. Like, I like to sail and play guitar. Well, after looking at millions of people that sail and play guitar also like these things. It's not about choosing one side or the other. It's about possibility. Oh, you like those things, and you might love this, right? And that's what should happen. But they don't make money on that. They make money on polarizing and firing a reptilian brain. So,
so is ethics around AI an emerging industry?
Yeah.
Like, does that become its own?
But think about this, like,
marketplace.
So even with us, right? We all have biases. Humans, however you were brought up, you have programmed biases. Mm-hmm. AI is the same thing, right? You can program it to be biased. Everyone tells me, well, if AI is making the calls and AI is biased a certain way, then that's going to be a problem. I'm like, well, it's not any different from what we have today. Right. So I liked what you said earlier. I think we all have our own Jarvis, right? So, and I bet we're having that in a couple of years, like literally next couple of years. Yeah. We'll all have our own. So it's a large language model, right? These chat GPTs, right? So I give all my email and my stuff like that. And I think it happens at the edge. It's not like another big thing that could happen here with AI is it comes to the edge now. It's not Google controlling my ID. Like my Gmail ID is not mine. It's Google's. My Twitter ID is not mine. It's Twitter's, right? But what if we all had our own AI made for our own stuff? Yeah. And it was companies like Stability.ai or people like that make it. So it's all decentralized. Yeah. I have my own Jarvis. It knows my health and it can help me, like you said, it'll understand what I'm eating and it understands my biological makeup and what I shouldn't be eating and lets me know when I'm going off track. And so I'm healthier, I'm happier, I'm meeting the right people. It's my AI that helps me build my life and, and my health the best way possible without any influence from a large centralized authority.
So my question to both of you, have you named your AI?
I mean, the answer is no. I haven't thought about it.
I have absolutely named my AI.
What is it?
It's Rosalind.
Rosalind?
Yeah, it plays because to Rosalind Franklin.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I was thinking.
Which I'm very fond of. The actual OG discoverer of the DNA strand that Watson and Crick got all the credit for. Cool. Okay. I tend to weave her into design in any way I can. Yeah. And I've done it since I was doing game design. Yeah. She'll come up in different ways, but I very subtly pay homage to her anytime I get a chance.
Love it.
Because I'm extremely fond of her story and very sad that for so many years she got zero credit for the amazing work that she did.
Wow.
And all right. So much
Learned
more.
Something new today. See?
Yeah. So she is so I pay homage to that. And Rosalind is the name of and I think about it abstractly. Of course, it's 1.0. It's disparate and siloed. So it's Midjourney's over here and ChatGPT's over here and video AIs are over here and beautiful.ai is over here. So I just like to holistically imagine it as my Jarvis, but as Rosalind as my Jarvis.
That's awesome.
And I encourage everyone to personify your AI
all right.
and build a relationship with that AI.
I love it.
The day when we really do have like a personalized AI, y'all, that's going to be cool.
Think about
like Scott's going to be like driving down the road instead of like, Mercedes me in the car or whatever.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, I don't know, his Rosalind. He's going to be like, hey, Rosalind, what's going on today? That's so cool.
The best technology disappears. Like there's no interface, right? That's the best technology. And that's same true for AI. Like I can't wait for the day that I wake up in the morning and it's a cold morning. So my car figured that out and pulled in front of the house and turned the heater on. And then it also realized that my kid had to be somewhere and it's going to take him there. So it has me scheduled to go a little earlier. And I just kind of walk out and get in the car and it goes and grabs my kid. Just life works,
Oh yeah, and it read your biometrics and it knew you were fatigued and that you liked this coffee shop on this corner and it routed you there and already had it ordered and you didn't have to walk out. The robot arm just handed it to you and you continued on your way.
You're about to go to the whiskey bar, so make sure you drink lots of water ahead of time.
Yeah, it hydrates you. There's a filtration system built into the car, and it just fills up the cup from underneath and then seals it. And then you drink it, and then it put it back down, and it's freaking tap. It's a tap of water.
I did one of those fight nights once, or me and this other guy got to debate on AI, and Mark Cuban was the judge.
Oh, at Digital Fight Club.
Yeah, I did Digital Fight Club.
Yeah, I've also been a fighter at Digital Fight Club.
I loved it. It was fun.
Hey, shout out to Digital Fight Club. What's up, Mike? Hope you're doing well, buddy.
Well, we got AI, and it's one supposed to choose the AI is evil and AI is great. And I said, which one? I said, I don't care. Pick one. The other guy picked that AI is evil. I went, oh, because that's an easy one, right? And at the end of mine, I said, yeah, I can't wait because I'm when I get my autonomous RV and I'm in the back making love with my baby, and it's taking me to Denver. I just love it.
Okay, what's so amazing about this moment? This is unknown. My topic was also artificial intelligence and augmented reality. And it was, is it here? Is it yet to come? And similarly, the gentleman I was sparring against also we kind of got along too well. So we had to pick a topic and I picked the positive and he picked the negative. This is so weird right now.
See?
We had the same topic a couple years apart, the same position. Wow. My main point was, it's not Terminator. It's human and machine. It's not versus.
That's right.
That was kind of my main narrative that I wanted to promote.
I did a talk.
And this goes back to, I was a fighter the first year. So this goes back a number of years.
I did a talk at the George Bush Center, and they had the topic was man versus machine. And I was like, okay, well, first we'll start there. It's not man versus machine. It's man and machine, and how are we going to augment? And I got on stage with the guy, and he was kind of saying that, it's we just have to have transparent AI. So the developers have to tell us how it's learning and da-da-da. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen. And so we had this disagreement on stage about that. But because I just think, at some point the AIs are learning and we don't know how they're learning. And we're going to, it's that evolution of trust again. Like if it produces something great and we're getting good results and convenience and life is awesome, why would we care, So, but then the other side of that is what happens after that. If I don't pay attention, so it's a great topic, but
this idea came into mind that sort of if AI discovers that it's in its best interest to mislead humanity, and sort of subtly weaves in all of these sort of distractions and other things, the like you're saying, the infinite possibilities. So,
well, which you could argue has happened, like platforms on social media. I don't know that I'm going to name any specifically. We can leave it up to our own imagination.
I don't know if you could credit AI with any of those yet.
I'm not so much saying I'd credit AI with it. I think it goes back to what you're saying about documents being provided and you now forming an opinion based on the information that you're seeing, and that becoming your full experience of knowledge and understanding of how society's operating.
Yes.
And then it just leaves us to our own imagination and maybe lack of critical thinking and asking deeper questions that causes us to accept things as truth that we should probably have a little more curiosity around. We should be investigating for ourselves and seeing, is this actually true? I had something the other day, someone sent me a text message of something they had seen in the media and like just took it as fact. And it was a very polarizing narrative, and it clearly didn't make sense. So I went and did a little research and realized it wasn't even remotely accurate. It was, Joe in their garage posted something on YouTube, and of course Joe's right and Joe's telling the truth. I mean, it was just, it was sad. It was very sad because they literally believed that this was happening, and it was, they took a tiny piece of truth and turned it into an absolute fact, and then played on other people's belief systems. And it really made me sad.
And the generative AIs right now are hallucinating. That's a well-known fact. Like they'll just say, I tested it once. I asked it to, I made up a fictitious name. That was, I can't remember what name. I made up a fictitious name about a famous person that, was an explorer, and tell me more about this person. Brought back this entire thing about him, So it's they hallucinate, and it's a known issue right now. So they're working on it.
I didn't know that. Scott, did you know that?
Yeah, they're hallucinating right now.
It's like just like making sort of connections that don't really exist, that sort of feel right. But and that's a bit of what I was trying to get to a while back in the conversation, is sort of in the challenges that AI presents. What are the skill sets that we need to have as humans to sort of be in that interface with man and machine? Because we're scratching on some of it, like critical thinking, et cetera. But like in the school environment where a kid can write a term paper in 30 seconds with some, with using ChatGPT or whatever. And so it's like, there are emerging tools to sort of like gut check and cross check. And, is it AI generated or not or whatever? And so I guess it's just like in your view, like, what should we be thinking about as like skills to start to hone and develop so that we're better equipped?
Yeah. So in the last, call it 3 months, 4 months, I've got more requests to join AI boards for schools and colleges.
Oh, wild.
I've never had that before. In the last 3 months, I've had 4. And so it's, so I'm doing a lot of talks at university. I'm actually going to TCU and talking to teachers soon. And I did grade school, believe it or not. And education, probably more than any other area, will change 100%. Like it's going to be so different.
It has to, when you talk about sort of the accessibility of information. That interface is.
I mean, think about it. So the way we teach, especially in colleges where you have a lecturer stand in front of 200 kids and teach this, everyone the same thing at the same pace, it's broken. It's so old and outdated. And so one of the cool experiences I had was to meet Saul Khan of Khan, the Khan Academy, that guy.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's amazing. I saw him speak and got to have a few words with him afterwards. But he's creating something called Conmigo. And Conmigo is basically the vision is to have every person in the world has a private tutor. Every person in the world. Start when you're 5 years old. Follows you the rest of your life. And it's kind of amazing. So he's also building a module for teachers, so automatic lesson plans, things like that. So now it's not teaching all kids the same thing. The teacher now has the ability to individually teach every kid. Yeah, but it's doing things like, so in Conmigo, you can interview a book. Pretty cool. Like you read a book, Lord of the Flies, and you can actually interview the book. Like, ask a character, why did you make that decision? And it'll have a conversation with you about it. And to also do things like interview inanimate objects, like the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
Like go interview it.
Where'd you come from? How old are you? Yeah.
And so there's, and then what about learning about gravity from Sir Isaac Newton? Like just have him teach you about gravity. So that's just amazing. So it's education. Cool. Yeah. But to your point, cause I was also talking to the Dallas Regional Chamber and the DCC's asking questions too, right? And one of the questions is so we have to have teachers know a lot more about these generative AIs than they do today. They need to know more than their kids.
Sure.
So the number one thing is we have to start educating our teachers. Kids are going to be fine, but they'll learn on their own. But one of the things is like you said, instead of someone just generating an entire essay, and then turning it in, the teacher has to know to say, show me your work.
Sure.
And you can go in and see the prompts they did and see if they interacted with the AI or if they just said, write me a paper. Right.
Interesting. So quality of prompts, quality of sort of.
Yeah. And then did they write? We'll have tools that say, this is, here's the end product and it's, 98% similar to the one. That's bad. Yeah. It should be 40%, or something like that. So did the child learn how to co-pilot with an AI to write the article?
It reminds me of mathematics. Like you can get the answer, but it was really in grade school, it was about showing the work.
Sure. Long division. And did you carry the remainder and whatever else?
My only point of contention with that is somehow I had found a way in my sophomore year in math, and I proved it multiple times over that I had a different process for this one. I think it was algebra, for this one particular way of doing algebra. And the teacher would not accept my answer. And I proved it multiple times over. I was like, I can see it so clearly. I can take this path and I can get to the same answer every single time. And she kept giving me prompts and I kept getting it right. And she would not accept my answer.
Wow.
And so I got that question wrong. And I was very upset about that because I, of course,
focused on the wrong thing from the teacher.
I was very studious and I did not appreciate that. I did not get an A on that exam, but I worked really hard. And I was like, I know this is right. And she would not. And then later on, I actually validated it with another teacher. And she's like, yeah, actually, that is a process that you can use.
Yeah.
I still remember that educator's name, super nice lady. And we were not aligned in that moment.
But you're right. It's like the same thing like a calculator.
Tangent done. Sorry. Just still doesn't bother me at all here.
We did get to the point where you were allowed to bring calculators in class, but that was the same kind of thing. It's not that much different. This way, we know the future of the world is that we're going to all be interacting with AIs to create things. That is the future.
And once you accept that, then it unleashes this whole different way to calibrate learning outcomes.
That's right. So
wild.
What if you could actually? What if a teacher could actually individually teach 20 kids? There's actually time to do it because of the AIs. And then because kids are different types of learners too. Some are visual learners, some are, in rote learning. So I think it's education more than any other industry is going to be changed massively. And I think it's a good thing. It's a really good thing.
I believe with everything in my existence and in my core and in my being that education is the single most important factor in society and that it is the path to providing a more equitable, more modern, more advanced species and society.
Yep.
Everywhere from reducing incarceration rates to reducing poverty to increasing a more sustainable, healthier, more vibrant future. Education is the most critical factor for that. And I'd even go back to, we had Dr. Melanie Johnson on recently, and her major focus is 0 to 5 education. And I would say, as much as it's great to have a tutor starting at 5, there also needs to be an and where the 0 to 5 education is equally as prevalent with a partnered AI that's coming alongside that human from birth all the way through their journey.
Because what's happening now, to your point, is we used to think you go to college and then you get a job and you learn a little bit after that, but you do most of your learning through college. We're going to have to learn every day. Every day. Change will be a natural part of every day. And you just have to keep learning. So perpetual learning will be something that we all kind of take on.
Getting comfortable with change.
Yeah. And then it's okay to learn every day. It's okay to throw things away and for things to be obsolete faster. Like used to be take your lifetime before some things became obsolete. That'll happen on, every year.
A 35-year career into a particular
not going to happen anymore.
Subset of activities or whatever. And you're going to, the what a career looks like and the fluidity.
You're constantly learning. And part of corporations will be then, how are you causing learning, perpetual, persistent learning inside your organization? Like it's part, I wouldn't be surprised to see, educational divisions popping up in every major company, and that there's consultants do it, so there's, you go into training on things, but this will be every day or, weekly or something.
I almost wonder if we, Scott, you were talking about like, what are some of the behaviors that we're going to need as humans in order to partner with AI over being railroaded by AI? Some of the core factors of society today that might need to be unpinned are things like a completionist mindset. And maybe it's more of a infinite or an advanced mindset.
Iteration.
Yeah, more of an iterative mindset. Like as y'all were talking, I was thinking like, well, we have graduation. Now we have like apparently kindergarten graduation. That's a big deal I hear. You have kindergarten graduation. You have junior high graduation in the States. You have high school graduation. I thought that was so funny when I saw that. You have university graduation. And to your point, graduation is kind of a pivotal milestone of completing something.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to celebrate our moments. But if we repositioned our behavior to say completionism kind of fades away and advancing, infinite, iterative become more of the prevalent behaviors in society, how does that start to reshape the way that we think? I'm always so enamored by Japanese companies and their 100-year business plans. I think we've all talked about this at different times, collectively and individually, the three of us. And it's so true. Like in a highly capitalist society that we have here in the US, I mean, you can literally get through a week hardly without someone having a freak out moment of what the stock market's looking like. And yet we have, counterparts in other parts of the world that are thinking in 100 years. And of course, I'm sure they're still paying attention to the day-to-day, et cetera. But man, if the whole world thought in 3 generations, just to start, how would that reshape the behaviors that we interact and engage with daily?
I could see, we think about this idea of a lifelong tutor. You can almost see how the tutor could kind of move with your flow. Like as you start to show curiosity about a certain subject and it notices that you're seeing more and more things about that it might change the way it's teaching you. And, I could see that where it just alters the flow of your tutor, you're kind of guiding your tutor by your interests, right? So attention creates reality, right? All through life. So maybe it's the same with your tutor, the things that you pay attention to. And maybe if it's persistently over time, then it starts to go, okay, let's get into this, and takes you on down that pathway. Because I think what's broken also in colleges, I remember, going to interview colleges with my kids, and they'll be there soon.
I know. That's why I'm sort of curious around.
Yeah, the thing that disappointed me. 5 years is going to be important. No, it is. And I think your kids are about the right age because it's changing.
My oldest is starting as a freshman in high school this fall.
Okay. So my kids were before all this, so it's like they're just at college now kind of thing. And it's not, the change is happening now, but it won't happen until after they graduate really. But I think,
but headlong in the workforce as they sort of jump in.
Yeah. The pitch they give you when you sit in the room with all the other people that are thinking to go in there is, we teach you how to get a good job so you can make money. And we teach you how to get that good job. I'm like, God, that's just so old. That thinking is so old. It's like, no, I want to create an environment where you're free to learn about anything you want. Because, it's not about, do I need more doctors and lawyers and things like that? Things are changing so fast that kids are in grade school, like your youngest kids. The things that they're learning now will be obsolete by the time they graduate college.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that cycle is going to happen so fast. And so we need to kind of be better at skating to the puck.
Yep.
So what is happening in the next 4, 5, 10 years? Just encapsulate things like that, and how can we create education around that? Around, more iterative but faster learning about topics, and then teaching kids, more importantly, how to learn. So when you leave here, you should continue learning. So here's how you do that. Here's how you become a perpetual learner. And it's those skills that are going to be the most valuable thing. It's not going to be the knowledge you get in college, because that shit's
discovery
everywhere.
Of how you learn.
Yes.
We've had, as Brad referenced, a conversation we've had recently with Melanie Johnson and her focus on kind of education. And one of the things that she talks about is that connecting, having fun with learning, so that it sort of becomes a part of your life, and it is sort of like the metric as you kind of work towards that. And I guess we've been talking about this topic. I feel like we'd be able to infinitely talk about what AI can and can't do. As we're starting to, though, bring that to like the workplace and creating that environment, this is a place that you spend a lot of time and effort. And I'm wondering if we can sort of pivot into kind of your philosophy on how you bring humans together to solve problems, and kind of how that future workplace is evolving. Can you share a bit about sort of your kind of guiding philosophy on that and where that's working?
Yeah,
still broke down.
I'm definitely I was an anthropology major in college, and so I think I may mention last time, it happened because I was dropping in on classes. I had classes, and I was a business major, right? I was really bored. I hated business. I just thought it was boring. And so I kept dropping in these different classes, and I found this one on corporate culture. And so I dropped in on it, and I liked it so much I went to every class, and I was taking the tests and everything. And the teacher came up to me and said, "Who are you? You're not on my roster." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not in the class." She goes, "Well, why are you here? That's interesting." And she and I became really good friends. She became the head of the department, and I ended up changing my major to anthropology with a focus on corporate culture. And it ended up being something that I've carried through my professional career. Like, I'm really fascinated with culture, especially startup culture, like small company culture, and how that can be a superpower, because culture is the only thing that everybody in the company creates together. It's the only thing, right? And so when you walk into a startup, especially, you feel it, and you either feel it or you don't. And it's not about what's on the wall. I won't say the name of the company, but I went to a guy, and it was in one of the Western states, and walked in. They said all this stuff about culture on the walls. It's all the right things, right words and stuff like that. And you walked in and sat in a meeting with a guy and saw him berating his CTO. And I'm like, okay, that's not what I saw on the wall. Right? So it's not about what you see in the wall. It's about what you feel when you walk in the room. And so we create these cultures. I like to call them Ubuntu cultures. And so Ubuntu is not just Linux. It's actually a Swahili word that loosely translated means I am who I am because of who we are together. That's what Ubuntu means. And so that's the kind of culture we like to build, is that when you come into the company, the first thing you do is get to know the team around you and ask yourself, who am I for them? Who am I for you? Who can I be such that you will be great? And they're going to ask the same question about you when they come in. Who can I be for you? Right. And so if everybody kind of has that attitude, it works. Like, it really works. Companies work, and you have to do less. There's less doing, right? And less telling people how to operate, and there's more just being, right? So we're all being great together. And then I think you have to call them impossible games. You have to inject things into the culture that kind of invigorate it. And one of the things we do is we call them impossible games, where like we deliver this software that's really amazing. I mean, it's essentially an AI that sits on top of existing IoT networks, so cameras and sensors, ingest that. It starts to, we build a live 4D model of an environment. So whatever happens in the environment happens in our 4D model in real time. And the reason we do that is so you can measure things and then use those measurements to cause alerts and actions in the real world. So like, if I see a process about to break down, like in the real world, I can send an alarm and say, "Hey, stop doing that."
Yeah. Wow.
So it's we call it the industrial metaverse, right? But solving that problem is pretty cool. But the impossible game we created was, how can we set up an environment? It was taking a couple months to set up an environment, and that was pretty natural for the industry. So I got with my partner. I said, "Hey, what do you think about creating an impossible game around this?" He said, "What?" I said, 7 days. We have to set up an environment in 7 days or less. Everyone's like, the impossible game's right when people look at you like you're fucking crazy. And so we got the right response for that. And it was like, yeah, whatever. But we ended up doing it. And now every client, we set them up in 7 days.
Wow.
So, because impossible games is one of these things you inject inside of a culture that pulls people together with intention.
Yeah.
Right.
Sort of breaks down sort of the scar tissue from other experiences and allows you to sort of blank sheet of paper.
Yes.
How do you bring all that?
You're in an environment where failure is impossible. We don't even focus on failure. We recast failure as iteration. Yeah. So you just iterate until you reach awesome. That's how we recast failure. You won't even hear the word failure in our culture. It's just funny. We laugh at it because if we celebrated failure, which most companies do, like, see what happened to that guy, if we did that, we would die because most of what we're building hasn't been built before.
Yeah.
So we fail all the time.
How can you define what good looks like?
Yeah. And so anyways, I think that's you inject it with things like that. So like embracing ridiculous and then no fear of failure and replacing failure with iteration. And you just create this environment where people are free to be their absolute best self. Like there's nothing the organization's doing to hold them back from trying. When we sold the last company, and I got a ping from one of my developers, and he just said, "Hey, Dave, I just wanted to say thanks for being batshit crazy." And I took that as the ultimate compliment. Like he said, I did things there where I wouldn't have done in any other company because you're freaking crazy. And you love that, right? Because that's just I don't think greatness doesn't surface in people. You have to summon it. I think.
Yeah.
Very few people can summon their own greatness. Like some can.
You have to rise to a challenge.
It takes you kind of summoning that. Like, so we have this concept we call co-elevation where if you're doing something, don't do it by yourself. It's something hard and good. Take somebody with you and do it together, and it's this idea of co-elevation. So I think, we try to create an environment. I think the ultimate test is at the end. I mean, you've sold a company, you start a new one, everybody wants to join. And that's why. It's not because it's a great paycheck or things like that. It's because they know we're going to do something really cool together. And there's not going to be any limitations put on by the company. Yeah. So
culture is sort of fought on the front lines in the day-to-day, and it's sort of reinforced or falls apart. And you start with intentionality, but like you're saying, you be in a meeting and sort of slip off kind of the rails, I guess, sort of in your experience. Like, what are the kind of handful of things that you look to as like the early indicators that sort of something's slipping?
It's a really interesting point you made, because culture is delicate, right? And so we don't have a manual. We don't give people things and here's our culture. Learn this and come back later. Be a test
spend a
later.
half day and you're gonna get it.
Yeah, we're about to have our first all hands meeting in 6 months. We haven't had one in 6 months, and we fly in from everywhere they are, wherever they are in the world. And it's going to be an interesting one because we haven't had this group. We've grown a lot in this time, and so we haven't had a meeting on culture. So it's going to be kind of a test. Like, are these people who haven't heard me talk about the stuff I'm telling you right now, did you experience it? Like, it's going to be interesting. Like, it's kind of a test. Like, are we doing that? And there are
send
times
them the show before they get here, they can listen to it on the plane.
Yeah. But it is interesting because it's like it is the one thing I think that gives startups superpowers over large companies. Like, if you have a group of people they're absolutely unstoppable, and that's another thing in our culture, is just being unstoppable. What does that mean? Well, people don't fail. Machines fail. Machines can break and fail. We don't fail. We choose to stop. Right. So really, for people, it's about how can I be unstoppable? Right. And so who can I be such that we will continue doing something until something happens? Right. And that's what we do. I think in my last company, it's funny. We had 2 products, and I was in love with this one. It was kind of a social AI thing. And the other one was an analytics product. And I really thought this was going to be the company. and the market had a different idea. It was this. So we ended up killing this product. And we didn't fire everybody. We actually just put all those people on the product that was really working. And we actually had a thing where we marched to the office and gave a funeral to the product. And but it turned out to be a really good thing. Like, it wasn't, in most companies it would have been, oh, it failed, product failed,
half the
people,
company's gone, and we missed this market opportunity.
Yeah, we turned it into the UX UI on this product's freaking incredible, and now it's all going to come to this product. And you know what happened? We put those people over there on this product, and it just went, and we were sold 3 years later.
Wow,
it just took off, But part of it is just like you want to lead with possibility. Like, as a leader in your company, you want to lead with possibility. Like, what's possible for us, and what's possible for you. Sometimes I take people out to lunch and I'll just have that conversation with them. Who can I be for you? Anyway, it's been tougher with COVID, I think, if I'm honest about it.
Sure.
Because we're definitely a remote company, remote first.
Yeah.
And so we've got to do a better job, I think. We've talked about this a lot, just of having more all company events and having teams come in the office. And we need to do better than that on those things. We will.
It seems like sort of establishing a culture is one thing, but sort of the continuation of it, particularly in a growing organization, because you bring in so many new and different ingredients, and you get these pockets of dilution and other things. Are you seeing, I guess, clearly sort of the work from home conversation is like this big challenge that's this pendulum is swinging back and forth. And I think in part because there's this,
it's almost like a rope swing.
It is
like just, right over a lake or something. It's just going back and forth.
It just keeps like,
but nobody's diving in. Just holding on to that rope for dear life.
There's clearly not like, hey, is it 3 days or 4 days or no days in the office or whatever it is. And I think some of it's dependent on what the company is trying to execute and deliver on, where they fit, what sort of like what good looks like from interactions. But I guess I'm just sort of curious in your view as it relates to culture. Yeah. Because one of the conversations that we've had on this topic and things is, you onboard people, they're net new, they're in their own home environment. They only plug in through this Zoom window. And so what are some of the things that, I'm always interested in just the actionability. So like, what are like the some of the tactics that you're using to sort of reinforce and build culture? You're saying kind of all hands, get everybody together to sort of hear sort of that message. But are there ways to reinforce, incorporate, facilitate in sort of that growth growth trajectory that you guys?
If I'm honest with you, it's definitely been challenging because before culture, everyone's together and it just kind of worked, and all the stuff we do works. And,
those micro kind of course corrections throughout the day.
Yeah. We are a remote first company. So if you want to work from home, we'll buy you a stand-up desk, electric stand-up desk, and we'll give you a 36-inch monitor and you can work from home. So there are a group of people that all come in the office. It's funny because you could probably guess, but it's the developers like caves. They want to work from home. Yeah. Salespeople, marketing people, ops, come to the office. The social people.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what happens. So now what we're doing, and this is, again, if I'm just honest about it, we got to be better at it, is doing more and more specific events of things. Like we have this thing we call Fat Tuesday, where we used to do it every third Tuesday of the month. It fell off, so we're getting back into it. But Fat Tuesday was we take everybody out to a really place that's bad for you, like for lunch, and we all get together, like Snuffers cheese fries and stuff. Like, what's funny is Fat Tuesday had the best response of anything we did. Like everybody wants to eat bad, I think. But things like that. So you got to create those events. These all hands events. We create. Everyone's coming over my house for a pool party in 2 weeks. So we're doing that. We have that happen.
We'll see you there.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, man.
Time and place.
I love that. But it's fun because we have our all hands every Friday on Zoom. And I wasn't on the last one. I was on vacation, but. I heard that they talked about the pool party, and it was already like the devs against the sales guys going, "You guys cheated last year, right? Volleyball, we got you." So, but we do stuff like that. I think you got to create events where people can have the casual bump ins, right? And then also encouraging the managers, like bring your AI team in for 2 days, and then encouraging events to happen more. That's something that we're going to put a lot more emphasis on. If I'm honest, I don't think we've done as good a job as we have in the past.
What is it about sort of just like being with another three-dimensional human? Like there's we talked about trust, and there's sort of this component to it. And I want to try and draw a thread. I don't know if it's there because we're talking about AI.
Yeah, no, it's there.
You can't drag AI into a room. You can't, but there is something about not yet. The holographic manifestation of Rosalind, I'm sure, will be created so that you can have that interface. Like on Star Wars, where you
100%. Not going to fall in love. I'm already deeply in love with my wife. Yeah. Sky gets that part of my heart, but Rosalind will get plenty of other parts of my.
Can I do the voiceover for Rosalind?
Oh, that's the only way it's happening. I mean, Rosalind isn't going to be if you don't do the voiceover.
Yeah. But I guess that's where I'm sort of like, I don't know if there is an answer or it's just sort of human nature or kind of what it is, but it feels like the answer is to get together.
Yeah.
But like in your experience, like what is it that's happening? Because there's get-togethers that work and reinforce culture.
Yeah.
There's get-togethers that because people have lost kind of the muscles around it, it's not as effective. But just sort of like, I'm just curious if there's
I think there's an absolute correlation. People, what's funny, the one thing we have, well, we have lots of things, but one of the big things we have that AI doesn't have today is a lifetime of experiences. And so everything that you do, every decision you make today goes through the filter of your lifetime of experiences. Yeah. And AI doesn't have that. And so when you're with other people, because I also think this kind of gets to diversity too, like diversity is experienced.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about diversity, it's a very positive thing. I think teams that all look the same, sound the same, believe the same, and they make shitty teams. You want people from different cultures, different sexes. You want to create diversity inside of teams, but I think when you're together, that diversity is amplified. Then it isn't not on a Zoom call, right?
Yeah.
Like there's greatness in that diversity, and so I think that's something that like trust with people. Is built on relationships. Trust with AI is built on consistency. Like think about when you use AI every day,
sure.
Siri or Alexa or Maps or things like that. You trust it when it works all the time.
Yeah,
that's not trust like me trusting you.
Yeah,
that's different. Yeah. So trust with AI is different from trust with people. And I think that's those intangibles are those things that I think are the magic, right? I'm not sure that we know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's there.
There's something special about that.
Yeah, there's something very special about human connection.
Bringing sort of the collective mind together on a challenge that everybody's bought into and how that the cultural norms of how that goes and gets done. There's something there. It feels like that's something to be protected and managed as a critical human resource as we move into this world of AI.
That's right.
That there are sort of this like core essence of like bringing humans together. And even though the collective knowledge of humanity is sort of found in, the compute and databases, but that there's still this like lived experience
that's right.
That drives
and that drives culture too. I'm not sure you can have culture in a company that's completely remote.
Yeah,
I don't think culture exists in a completely remote company. So that's a challenge.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So you've got to have people meeting people and talking to people to create culture.
I almost wonder if it's like we have a soul, we have a body, we have a mind. Like, is that this thing that we can't understand? We don't see it visually. We experience love.
Yep.
We experience fear. We experience hate. We experience kindness. We experience these things in our lives. AI won't experience these things.
Right.
And maybe at some point it'll be, we'll be able to create a level of synthetic biology that an AI can, copy it.
Mimic.
Yes. But even mimicry is not the same as feeling.
That's right.
And emotion, because I'm so fascinated by this topic because with everything in my core, my futurist hat just is constantly reverberating through my humanity. And I'm always thinking about not even a linear reality, but dimensionality that almost is beyond my own comprehension. And in that mind space, I'm constantly thinking about a virtual work setting. And yesterday I mentioned I gave a talk and I was in a studio that I was very fortunate to, have a really like emotional connection to. And I left yesterday evening and I called Sky on the way home. And I was like, I can't explain it. All I know is the experience that I had being in this space with humans, having this shared experience was so beautiful and enriching. If I'm being honest, a bit tiring because I don't have the same social interactions on a daily basis that I had before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I'm not as conditioned for them as I once was in larger settings.
Yeah.
But y'all, I just felt so alive. And it was like such a beautiful moment. That's not something you replicate with technology or virtual reality.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't mean like VR headsets. I mean like in virtual reality over an in real life reality.
It's funny. We have this saying that you're always winning the game you're playing. And I don't know, I've thought about it this way until you just said that. But the statement comes from this idea that you create the life that you have. That it's an ultimate statement of responsibility. Like I own that I have a good life. And you can take it even a step further by saying that I'm responsible for everyone around me. This is where it gets a little unrealistic, right? Because I don't cause people's lives around me, but I've had an incident in a previous company where there was one of my team members she was having a really bad day, and it's obvious, And I asked myself, who am I being such that she's having that problem? Crazy thing to say, 'cause it's not me, right? Or at least I don't think it is. And so I went up to her, just, hey, anything I can do to help, and we ended up talking, and we went across the street and had sat and had a Coke together, and ended up being something I could help with. But it was just the thought that I asked myself that irrational question of who am I being such that she's having a problem caused the interaction, and ended up being able to help her. And so the thing we talk about with teams is like, you're always winning the game you're playing. So if things aren't happening or things aren't working with your team or you in your life, ask yourself, what game am I playing such that this result is occurring? Yeah. Right. And so
I actually think you're right, though. I think we have more control over our lived experiences and those that we interact with than we give ourselves credit for.
No, it's there. It's there. I think that you're talking about people and interaction, right? Like that can't happen. That statement I just made, like you're always winning the game you're playing as a person or as a team, can't happen if we're all remote.
It also can't happen if we're all thinking about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to be, to your point.
Right.
And then there's action and inaction. That's what I was thinking about as you were sharing this. There's the thought that forms. Clearly, I can observe this person's having a rough day. What in my reality may have impacted that. But then does that cause action or inaction? Because I think fight or flight also kicks in. And sometimes it could just be pure apathy. But I believe, that rebellious optimist showing, I believe that more humans are good.
Yes.
And awesome and more than awesome more often than they're less than awesome.
I do too.
But taking action to say, let's go grab a Coke and sit down.
Yeah.
Like, that's the next step that needs to happen. Otherwise, having the thought needs to then form into action.
That's right.
Over inaction. And that's super
and that doesn't happen on Zoom.
Valuable. It doesn't happen on Zoom. And, and it could, right? Like, I've had moments during the pandemic, especially, to tell someone wasn't being their normal self, and afterwards to give them a call.
Yeah.
And yes, you have that shared experience, but man, sitting down with that Coke or that cup of coffee or that glass of whiskey or Topo Chico or whatever it is, sharing that experience, that is so special and rare.
That's right. Yeah, it can't be replicated, I don't think. And you hit on something too. I'm a big believer that we're not who we think we are, right? Who am I for other people? That's the real question. It's not like who am I? People always ask that. We got taught because there was libraries with self-help and self-improvement, which is just a stupid concept.
Yeah.
Right. Because all that it's about is who are you for other people?
Yeah.
Right. It's not about you helping yourself. It's about who are you being for other people such that they can have a great life? Like, I think that's the thing for a leader today? It's like, who am I being such that this is a place where people can be the best they can possibly be? You know, and then the answers just show up. There's not a formula for how to be great. Things like, I always love to see those articles like 3 things to do, become a great leader. You're like, oh, there's only 3? Yes.
That's all you need. You just need those 3. Someone unlocked the magic.
Yeah.
There's a Jay-Z line in, I believe it's the 444 album. And he says, you're not rich unless everyone around you is rich. And what he's really speaking to is community and elevating. As the tide rises, we all rise.
That's right.
And you have to rally community together in order to create the reality that you want to see. Build the life that you love doesn't just mean about yourself. It's about being attuned to those are in your universe and in your ethos and understanding what their needs are and their priorities, and then finding ways to intentionally work together to create and build that reality into existence.
That's the key. Yeah.
Speak it into existence, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I think I told this story last time, but you keep reminding me of stuff like this. Like, it was in my last business and I was standing in the kitchen. I think we were having a lot of trouble with our funding or something, and it wasn't going well. And I didn't say a word. I was just making coffee. And one of the guys that was in the coffee room with me, hey, what's wrong? Like, I hadn't said a word. What's wrong? You know? And so I do think there's an energy, right? They've even done studies where they look at your heart, and there's patterns between the 2 blips, you know? There's patterns that occur that when you're angry or when you're happy, they're different patterns.
Whoa.
But they see it. So like there's an energy, you know, that's real. And so almost as a leader, you almost got to be responsible for that, which is kind of weird. Like, it's not just about the words you say. Sometimes it's about who you're being.
It's your aura, it's your energy.
Yeah, before you say a single word, you know?
Like I think about my interactions with Sky, and like, I just think marriage is such a beautiful expression of like 2 molecular structures just converging in the universe, right? Like I can't explain it, but all I know is it's something very rare and very special.
Yep.
And she can literally look at me and know something is off and out of nowhere, and I could be seemingly fine, and she will nail it. And there's many times where I'm like, I'm fine, I'm great. What are you talking about? Everything's good, but because I don't want to, bother her. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, how the hell did she know that I'm off? Like, I think I'm being totally cool and chill. She's like, no, like your aura is so off right now. Like, it's so off. I've gotten better over the years. We've been married almost 12 years. So now I'm finally, it's taken me about 12 years, but I'm finally getting there to where I'm like, this is affecting me, whatever it might be. I don't know if that's because I just want to be like, a caretaker in my nature, but whatever it is just instantaneous. And I'm like, damn, you're good.
It's a thing. It's a thing though, right? You create something together. It's a thing. It's a real thing. I don't know what that is, but it's special.
You cannot explain it.
Yeah.
It is real though.
Yeah.
It's very real. There's a whole Jay-Z narrative on that too but I'll save that for another time.
Life lessons from Jay-Z.
Y'all, hip hop philosophy is real. I'm telling you, there is so much. One of my other favorite ones, which is very relevant to where we're headed. Drake says there's 10 of us, but we're moving as one.
Nice.
So when we think about Ubuntu, and did I say it correctly?
Yep, Ubuntu,
and team philosophy.
Yeah.
It's how do we have that shared experience in such a way that we really see ourselves as individuals, but also as one unit, working towards something that we all believe in.
It's so true. My partner Chris and I, we one of the things that we do to kind of permeate that through the culture is through storytelling. Like we have these funny stories, where crazy impossible things happen, and we make sure we tell the stories, because I think you share culture through storytelling. And that goes back to ancient cultures, like when they sit around fires and teach their kids things, they learn about culture through stories. And I think it's big in startups for sure. Like you have your stories. We have this one we'd love to tell people, and it's because we know we're going to hit a lot of places where shit's not working or something like that, And we had this situation where we had one of the largest publishers in the world was using our software, and I had this habit of kind of saying things when I shouldn't, not a bad way, but like my partner's all kicking me under the table when I'm doing, like we were sitting at this 10 top of a table with the guy at the head of the whole thing, and there's 150 tables, 10 tops, and we're at his table, the head guy. And I said, hey, Pete, does it make you nervous that our company can't fill one of these tables? And Chris is kicking me under the table. But it's the big thing was we're doing a demo the next morning, and the software the night before did not work. Did not work. We couldn't get one. It was a semantic search engine, and we couldn't get one query to work. Not one. Somewhere around 3, 4 in the morning, we got one query to work. So we're in there, and we did the query and went as a demo, and okay, we'll go. And Pete stops and goes, hey guys, let's take one from the audience. I was like, crap. And so someone throws up this query. It's like patent. We built a brain on patents, and there's something about a swing trainer. It's a crazy thing that even you reading it couldn't tell what it's about. And my partner Chris is putting in every word possible to just give it the best chance of it getting something, and it freaking nailed it. And then we got off the stage. But sometimes there's just things are going to work because they're going to work. And that's the story on that one, was just keep going and keep trying, because sometimes life will show up in ways you don't think it will, just even if it seems impossible, right? So different stories, and so we have stories for all sorts of stuff, but they're real. They were things that happened,
Do you tend to feel that almost like before it happens? Like there could be like a moment where you're like, something's happening.
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't think I did then.
Yeah.
I was just worried.
Laser focused on
what am I going to say when this thing doesn't work?
Well, and maybe you were more focused on that, so you weren't as attuned to that rhythm of God or the universe, and just kind of how everything's interwoven.
So I do have a cockiness, and not bad cocky, like good cocky. Like I'm another one of those moments.
Are you good cocky or bad cocky?
Yeah. Well, because there's no question in my mind that our company's going to be successful. There's no question. I just know it will. It's not even a question. And we had another one of those kick me on the table moments when we were with our lead investor raising our first $10 million, and we're sitting with the lead investor. And my partner Chris, one of his golden rules is when you get the deal, stop talking and leave.
Of course, it's great sales tactic.
But it's good advice, right?
Yeah.
Well, so sure enough, we got the deal, and I said, to our lead investor Lisa, I said, hey Lisa, I'm gonna make you 2 promises. And Chris is kicking me on our table. It's time to leave. Time to leave. First promise is this company will be successful. I promise you that. No question. Second thing is what we just described to you that we're going to be doing will probably not be what we end up doing.
What you just invested in, isn't it?
Because we're going to learn a lot, and it's going to be different, And,
what was their response?
Oh, she laughed. She's awesome. She's cool. Crazy. We have great investors. We have Moneta Ventures guys just came on board too, and they're just incredible. The fit's just perfect. They just want this thing to be great.
Yeah.
I'm big on that, like not taking money for money's sake.
I hear the terms. I don't know VC very well, but I hear the terms dumb money versus smart money.
Yeah.
Is that kind of?
It's even more than that. It's like cultural.
Yeah.
Like
lovable even.
Well, I won't take money from someone that's all they're bringing is money.
Yeah.
Like that's not. We want someone that believes in us and our mission and what we're doing, and they want to believe. They want to be part of it.
Belief money.
Yeah.
Partner, not a.
Or you could even say belief fuel.
No, exactly. It is fuel.
Yeah. It's fuel for advancing purpose.
That's right.
I have a very strong passion around. We need to redefine our relationship with capitalism and with money to see it not as a glass ceiling, because we will not ever break through that, but rather as fuel for advancing purpose and belief. And in doing so, we will just break through in the most beautiful senses everything our minds have ever imagined.
Yeah.
And we will get to what's on the edge of the universe that we don't yet see and don't yet know. But until we can reshape our mindset around our relationship with money and the economy and Wall Street and you name it, it has to be fuel. It's not goal. But in today's society, it's goal.
Yeah.
In so many organizations and in so many spaces and places. And I'm not talking about basic needs being met. That's an obvious. I'm talking about once the basic needs are met and you've moved past higher needs into that next echelon of what is unknown, gosh, we could truly reshape humanity in the most beautiful ways and give everybody access to fuel.
I think that's a great thing because that's possible now. I think one of the cool things about what's happening with AI is that open source is becoming the way it's coming to the world. So it's not Google delivering it or Facebook, or it's actually happening as open source, and so there is a democratization happening with AI that I hope continues. I really hope it continues, that AI becomes this, a global OS that we build for the world. We all build it together. And then, because, AI has been very westernized, so if you take our AIs and bring it to other countries, it's like, because it doesn't really fit. But having a global OS, like of an AI that everyone can build on top of, build your culture on top of it, I think that would be a wonderful thing. But it's kind of happening right now. AI at the edge. I hope that's the future. I really do.
You said something earlier about summoning greatness in others.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminded me of this ancient verse about the purposes of a human's heart are plenty, but insight is what draws them out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be really curious about, how do you and your team summon greatness in each other?
It's usually by, and sometimes it happens as teams and sometimes it's an individual. We've had instances where we bring a person in and say, hey, we got a crazy idea and you're the perfect person for it. And we actually have a crazy idea right now that I can't talk specifically about, but I'll tell you that it's taken three of our people and putting them on a special project, and it's like, this is going to be awesome if it works, kind of thing. And I think part of it is the challenges, right? People are way more capable than they think they are. Like everybody is, all of us are. We're way more capable than we think we are. What's happened, I think, what doesn't happen enough is you're not paired with people who are willing to ask you to challenge that on a regular basis. Like, we need more of that, so take on and if you can remove failure from the environment, so it's truly just an effort to try complete possibility, then that's the unlock. That's the unleash, right? Was when you can take all those limitations away. Like, I think part of building a company today, and you touched on it a second ago, it's changing, right? Capitalism used to be this, here's the 10 competitors and here's the feature benefits and here's how we all compete. And like, we don't play that. We play to build a market of one. Like, we want to build a technology that's so unique that nobody else has anything like it. And it's a blue ocean. I don't fear partners. I want to go partner with anybody that wants to partner with me. I don't care who they are.
It's that abundant mindset that there's just sort of this versus a competitive of like, hey, there's a fixed pie.
It's not a red
we
ocean.
need to go get our biggest slice. That
if we can get 3%, let's go for all of it. Yeah, and then let's partner with anybody that wants to partner with us. And I laugh at. So I had a guy that he wanted me to buy his company, but before that happened, he said, hey, well, he was talking about. I said, let's go have lunch and talk about what we do. And he's like, oh no, because he viewed me as like this tangentially competitive guy. And I was like, I'll tell you everything we do. I don't care. Let's go. Because I don't ever leak secret sauce. We just talk about what we do. And I think it's a blue ocean, man. There's so much possibility out there. It's really a matter of who can you partner with to get these things done faster. I think that there's a book, What Technology Wants, Kevin Kelly, a long time ago. He wrote about it where he said that at any one time.
He also wrote The Inevitable.
Yes, same guy.
Freaking phenomenal author.
Well, he had this statement that at any one time in the world, there's people working on the same idea.
Oh, yeah.
And they all evolve very slowly. When the evolution quickens is when they meet each other.
Whoa.
And then it just starts to accelerate the evolution of the idea. So I think the same thing's in a company, right? That's why we talk about co-elevation. It's like, don't send one person to do something. Have two or three people come together and accelerate the idea.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's been my experience multiple times, especially in the formative years of developing my life's work. There were so many moments when, we had an idea or we had an experience, and then before you know it, like, you're getting a call from someone else who sees something that you did or an article you were featured in, or you vice versa see them, and you're right, you connect, and all of a sudden, like, it just accelerates it so much faster. My silliest example is high school doing the knuckle touch. I swear we invented the knuckle touch. And yet I go to other places and other people are doing the knuckle touch. And now it's super common. This is late 90s, early 2000s. And we would do the blow it up as well. We were very proud of that. We called it the knuckle touch over the fist bump because it was less angry and mean. I have to give my cousin Elizabeth a shout out on that one. She's the one that would call it the knuckle touch. It was so great. And I like the other one was this like ridiculous handshake that this buddy and I had. It was like very involved with all these like movements. And I swear to you, there was another time in my life when I met someone and they had the same freaking handshake. And I was like, this is insane. Like, how did you have the same? It's the same thing. It blew my mind. I either dreamed that or it happened, but I'm pretty sure it happened.
Yeah, for sure.
I will never know. But that's okay. But you're right. Like there's this universal reality of humans around the globe having same ideas that have never interacted. That has always been fascinating to me.
And now we have better tools than ever to help those people find each other.
Wow.
So it's going to be fascinating.
There was one other thing that you touched on that I really want to dive a little deeper into. You're always winning the game you're playing.
Yeah.
There's a story within that of a human who's been very influential in your life.
And
we
talked about that, didn't we?
I would really love to share more about that. I have told that story
to
so many people since you first shared it. And I just think it'd be cool for the audience to hear about that inspiring journey.
Yeah. So I met this guy. So I was about the same time I was kind of graduated college. And as you can kind of tell, I'm kind of like I get bored with stuff, And so I was my now wife. We were just I think she's my fiance back then. I kind of came to her one day and I said, I need to go on a journey. She said, what do you mean? I said, I just think I'm going to work, coming home, we're eating, we go to sleep, we ate breakfast, I go to work, come home. I said, there's this pattern. I'm not getting anything. I said, so I left for 3 weeks and I just went on this journey and I heard people would tell me about, you got to meet this guy because he's, it's almost like my sage journey, right? And I met this guy. His name is Ron Zeller, and he just ended up being someone that was very formative in my life. Ron was, at the time I met him, he was probably 60. I think he died a few years ago when he was 82 because he was adopted and he didn't know he had cancer all over his body all the time. And he didn't know why because he was adopted, But Ron was one of these guys that he just thought about life differently. Like life is about possibility. It's all about possibility, nothing else, And so after I took these courses with him, but then I ended up I gave him stock in my last 2 companies. I said, hey, just stay with me. And I wouldn't have to do that. I just did it because I wanted him to, he's helping me and I wanted to help him. And so things happen like Ron. One of the things I think I told you before was he called me and he'd been given a diagnosis of stomach cancer. He's supposed to die in 6 weeks. And anyone else would call you and it's like a, commiserate moment, right? And that's not the way Ron was. He goes, I thought I'd tell you. I went to the doctor and he says, I got 6 months to live. I've got stomach cancer. And because it was Ron, and instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, I said, what are you going to do with that, Ron? And he said, well, I decided I'm going to run the Wasatch 100. It's the 100-mile race through the mountains of Utah because my mind knows I'm not going to die, but my body doesn't know that. And he was 72, I think, at the time. He said, I'll be the oldest person to run the Wasatch 100. He did it. He ran the Wasatch 100, and the funny story was he's a mile from quitting, and his body gave out. He fell down and just collapsed, right? And his wife put him in a chair, and she was a 5th-degree black belt, 75 years old, 5th-degree black belt. And she finally literally kicked him in the ass and said, you said you're going to finish this race. He finished. But 2 more times after that, he got lung cancer, and his voice was real high. So I talk like this, And I said, what are you going to do with that, Ron? He said, I'm going to go to Costa Rica, and I'm going to come back with the best voice I've ever had, And he was just that kind of a guy. And the 3rd time it happened, he said, I'm going to run the Death Valley 130. He was 80 years old, and he ran the Death Valley 130. And he had lung tumors on his lungs, and they all fell off. They just fell off his body. And he eventually died from cancer, but just this mind over matter, he was that guy in my life. And he's the one that kind of told me that you're always winning the game you're playing. And it took me a long time to get it, like what that really means. But you finally get it. And it's this ultimate responsibility that you are the creator of your life. And what happens is you own it completely. So if things are showing up in your life, whether it's people or things or circumstances, if you don't like them, ask yourself, what game am I playing such that these things are happening or these people are attracted to me? and change the game. Literally change the game, change the game, and then go forward. Right. So if you don't, if you're not winning you're always winning the game you're playing. So whatever's happening in your life is because of the game you're playing. So just own that. And so it took me a long time to get it, but I just, so it's something that we've kind of expanded to teams. It's like this idea that you're always winning the game you're playing. If it's not working, what are we doing that's causing that? But yeah, he was just, Ron was just an amazing guy. And to the day he died, we were the best of friends. And outside of my dad, he's just the most influential person I ever met. He, in one of his classes, it was funny because he said, he was talking about how people it's like you bring yesterday into today all the time. We all do that, right? His way of talking about it was, he said, well, think of yourself in an aquarium, so someone says, yeah, you suck. So poop, you poop. He says, and if this happens, poop, your mom doesn't love you, poop. And he says, pretty soon you're in your life and you're swimming in poop. He says, part of cleaning up your life is taking those things and getting it out of there. So like he had this big thing about completion. Like if there's someone in your life that's like, that caused something with you. Like I had a girl in one of the classes, or her dad, I think, abused her or something. And from that class, she called him, and hadn't talked to him in 20 years. And the guy started crying and said, anyway, they became friends after that, and reestablished a relationship. And it's this idea of completion, like find the things that aren't working and complete that. What do I need to do? Can you forgive someone for something, even if it's terrible? Forgive them for it. Don't carry that into your life. Past, present, future, right? Don't take the past and put it in your present because it screws up your future. Leave the past in the past. Take the good stuff, put it. But we're not very good at that. What we do as humans is we take those things from the past and we put them in our present, and it screws up our future. That's what we do. And sometimes people just live their whole present in their past. And he was really big on me kind of like teaching me how to separate those things. Like take the good stuff and learn from it, but all the bad things, you've got to put it in the past. And my wife was laughing at me one time because I was walking around. I had a towel on, I think, with the phone clipped to my side. And I was walking around. And I said, I can't talk to you right now about that because I got to focus on other things. And she looked at me, and I didn't have a phone in my ear. And she goes, what are you doing? And I said, oh, sorry, I'm just talking to myself. Because that's what Ron, he's kind of, his coaching to me was like, just talk to yourself like it's a thing, And I would, if my brain was telling me I'm not good enough or something like that, I'd say, thanks for sharing, but I can't listen to that right now because I'm trying great things. And over time you don't need to do that. But I would submit that almost everybody needs to do it now. Like that voice in your head's always telling you something. It's your amygdala or whatever it is. It's just always it's built for survival. That's the way we were built as humans. And so your body's always questioning things, and a lot of that's questioning yourself. Am I good enough? And so part of it's just understanding who that is, and that's not you, right? You create you, not that voice, And so anyway, he was just he was that guy that just really just changed the way I think and try to create a filter for life, And I think can't say it all works. It's not a strategy like that, but I don't do it because of that. I do it because I just I want to have a great life, and I want people around me to have a great life, and it tends to work when you lead with possibility. Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like that's something we should close on.
It's pretty perfect. So what is our question for the audience?
I always forget about it, Brad. There's always a question here at the end that we don't answer, that we just put out.
I have one.
Yeah.
Good.
Perfect.
Go.
Who are you for other people?
Boom.
Boom.
Can you give us a boom?
Bam. Bam.
Bam.
We say bam. That's my person. Bam.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. Join Brad and Scott next time on the Curiosity Podcast.